Welcome back to Untaming Masculinity, the podcast where we tackle issues relevant to men and their journeys to reclaim their masculinity. I'm Dan, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host and good friend, Brad. What's going on, man?
Oh, man, I'm good. Today is a good day. Just played Trouble with my kids. It's the longest game ever. Hit the gym and jiu-jitsu today, so I'm pretty tired, but I'm feeling content. What about you, man? How are you?
There you go. Dude, I've been running lately. I don't like running. It's not fun. But I am training for that Ragnar relay that I was talking about. I think I talked about it last time. It's going to be a good time, but it's just no. I'm looking forward to lifting heavy things again. But the running will get me in shape for hunting season, so that's good too.
Yeah, it's true. Just suffer through it.
Yeah. Speaking of hunting season, we have a first tonight. We've got our first repeat guest. We got Clint McInnes back with us here, joining us, and we're going to talk about all kinds of things, including his new adventure, which we'll have him tell you about. So, welcome back, man.
I'm your first repeat? Man, you guys are making terrible decisions in life.
We set the bar low.
Yeah.
Like
we like to leave room for improvement.
Yeah.
It was like
that's
the
good.
worst guest
like
we
that.
had. Let's see if he'll want to come back.
Yeah. People actually reported that last show, so it got kicked off. Lots is going on, man. Yeah, I've got a lot going on right now. Yeah, I'm getting ready for an upcoming bear hunt here in about a week and a half, and that's all I can think about. So if you guys hear me talk about a bear hunt for the next hour, that's your fault, not mine.
Spring bear hunt. Where are you going to go for it?
We're headed up to Idaho for that one. Be up there for 9 days.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I'm super excited.
9 days.
Yeah, we're going to get it done.
Is there a certain sex you can take in the spring, or is it
They
male and female?
prefer that you take male. Like that's stressed pretty heavly, but it is a little harder to tell with bears. So you got to pay a lot of attention. But yeah, we'll be trying for the males.
Do they? Can you bait bear up there?
You can bait, and you can also run dogs. You've got to have permits for both of those. And seeing as where we're going is about a 8 or 9 hour drive away from where we live, we didn't do the baiting because you've got to run up early and do that kind of stuff early to get them coming in. So
right.
Yeah, we're just doing spot and stock and trying to get it done that way.
Awesome, man.
8 or 9 hours. Are you heading up to the Panhandle?
We're headed up right to. Do you know where Chalice is at? Yeah. We'll be just west of Chalice.
Sweet.
I don't know what the
Cool,
Panhandle
is,
so don't ask me questions.
It's the skinny part at the top. Like if Idaho was a frying pan on its side.
Okay. Is that? I can't tell if you're serious. Is that a serious thing?
I'm dead serious, man.
All right. Okay. Yeah. No, we'll be kind of where the pot handle meets the pot then.
So, Clint, a couple of weeks ago, I guess probably a little bit more than that now, we started seeing things on social media pop up about Spark Adventure. And you're wearing this spiffy, nice black shirt that says Spark on it. So I wanted to bring you on and kind of talk about this and learn more about it. Can you jump in and tell us a little bit about the what that is and what you guys are doing?
Yeah, man. So this is a project that I've only been working on for a couple of months now. And it kind of came about. I have all these people come into my tattoo shop and I talk to them one-on-one all the time. And I get a lot of people that'll come in and they're like, man, you're doing all these cool things. You're going on these big backpacking excursions. You're going on these hunts and you're going fly fishing and you're doing all of this really cool stuff. And like, those are things that I want to do, but I don't quite know how to get into it. And I kept thinking to myself, like every time somebody would say this, I'm like, well, you go and do those things. Like, I don't understand what the big holdup is because that's my type of personality. Like if I want to go and try something, I go and dive in the deep end of the pool, even if I have no idea what's happening, which is also a personality flaw when you get into the long end of things, right? Like I go real hard when it comes to those certain types of things. But I realized that people would go and do these things. They just weren't taking the initiative to go and do these things. And so I wanted to help people realize like there's stuff out there that can make your life really cool. And you may not have tried any of these things that we're going to go and adventure and try out, you may not have done them before, and that's okay because we've got an expert there to help show you through those things and to kind of usher you along in those. But we want to take people on these adventures. So what it is I made a clothing company with the intent of about roughly every 2 months, if you've bought any of our items that we have for sale in our website, you're entered into a drawing to go and do whatever we're doing at that time. So this first one that we're giving away is a fly fishing trip. It's all expenses included. Like, we don't expect these people to pay for any part of it, and we just want to get them out for a day on the river in Utah. Whether you've done fly fishing or not, we've got my buddy James. He's a fly fishing guide. He's going to make sure that the person has all the equipment that they need, that they get the lessons on what they're doing. He's standing with you right there in the river. And we're literally going to throw you in a river, man. You're going to be standing thigh deep in water trying to catch some fish for a day. And hopefully it puts a good experience in your mouth to where you become passionate about it. And maybe you don't become passionate about fly fishing exactly, but maybe it sparks a little bit of passion somewhere in your life. And you realize, like, oh, I need to go and do some more cool shit in life. Oh, sorry. I never know whether I can swear on podcasts. If you have to bleep that out, that's fine.
Cuss away.
All right. Don't tell me to cuss. Don't tell me, because then it's just poking the bear. Then you have to put a lot of bleeps in there. But yeah, man, I just want to help spark some passion in people's lives. And we're not limiting it to fly fishing. The next thing that we're going to do is we're going to go and shoot some bows. I know Dan knows about this one a little bit, but yeah, we're gonna take somebody to the Utah Total Archery Challenge. And again, even if you've never shot a bow, we're gonna set you up with a bow that you can take home if you want to, or if you have your own bow, you can bring that. We're gonna make sure that your travel expenses are paid for. You come up and you shoot with us for a weekend in Brighton and Solitude in Utah, and yeah, look, we're gonna have a blast up there. We're gonna have me and a buddy next to you, making sure that you know what you're doing, that you're not just up there having a terrible time because you can't figure it out. We're going to get you some cool stuff. So yeah, we're going to try all the adventures all at once.
That's such a cool concept, because I'm like a lot of guys in that I have a bow. I bought it with the intent of starting to go, archery hunting at some point. And then I was like, oh, I don't know anybody who hunts. I don't know how to get started. Drag my feet. Next thing I know, a couple of years has gone by and I just haven't committed to it. Right. I've always wanted to fly fish, and I'm like, oh, I don't know anybody who fly fishes. Oh, I can just make up an excuse not to go. So you get these cold feet. And as a result, those opportunities really realistically could pass you by simply because I wish I could say I'm wired just like Clint. I'm not. I'm not going to be like, all right, I'm going to go do it right now. I get trepidation. I get nervous. I get hesitant. And you're opening up that opportunity for these guys who have this interest, but they're kind of like me. They've been dragging their feet for way too long. So that's killer, man. I guess I should ask you, what's kind of the impetus or the spark, if you will, that made you decide, you know what? Not only am I doing these things, but I want to show guys how to do them, take them out and have a good time. Like, what was that fire, that spark?
Honestly, dude, it's what you're talking about right now. So there's a lot of people who have went out and maybe they have a little bit of interest in shooting a bow or fly fishing or whatever it is, but they don't know somebody who can take them. Mm-hmm. Or like, a lot of these things are intimidating to get into. When I first went out on my very first hunting trip, I didn't have someone next to me until the last day. For the most part, it was like, I'm going to figure this stuff out. And that's super intimidating, especially when it comes to like taking an animal. That's kind of next level intimidating, which is why we're doing a little more like basic entry stuff, right? Like fly fishing's a little easier to get into, but there's that barrier of entry in fly fishing. If I want to go and do that, one, I've got to spend like $1,000 or more to go and get all the equipment. And then I've got to figure out if I even like this stuff. Well, cool. We're going to take that away so that you can go out there and try it with little to no entry. Maybe you bought a sticker, maybe you bought a t-shirt, doesn't matter. You can go out there, you can try it without having to spend that money for one, but also you've got at least 2 people there who are supporting you, and they're like, hey man, you've got this. We're going to help you along. We're going to keep the training wheels on, and we're going to help you figure this out. I want to do that with everything. I want to do it. Hunting's going to be a little harder to figure out, but going and shooting a bow, I want to do that with shooting a bow. I want to do this with ice fishing. I want to do this with backpacking into the wilderness and carrying everything you need to survive on your back. I want to do this with a lot of things and just take that big, intimidating part and say, if you're willing, I'm willing to take you. We're going to do it. We're going to make it happen.
It gets me excited, and it gets me pumped up that there's people like you doing stuff like that, because the things that you're talking about, getting out into nature and fishing and hunting and backpacking and ice fishing and whitewater rafting, whatever it is, all these adventures are stuff that you look back on in life later on and you're going, it very much could be that type 2 kind of fun thing, but you look back on it and go, man, that was awesome. Like, I went on a hunt this past winter and I was sitting in a tree stand in the snow and it was freezing, but I look back and go, I can't wait to do that again this winter, because it's so much fun to be out there and just challenging yourself like that. So it's I can hear the excitement in your voice, and I'm excited that there's somebody doing that, and I'm excited to see where this kind of goes and what you all do with it. But I'm kind of impressed that you're doing it just off the clothing line and as like giveaways. Like it's pretty interesting how that's all working for you.
Yeah, that's kind of the marketing side of things, right? Like I've got to try and figure this stuff out, and hopefully it works out. Right now, I'm kind of dumping a lot of money in praying for it, but hopefully it works out, and we do cool stuff where people enjoy it. But I want people that are willing to go and do something that they've never done, to spend a little bit of time in nature, because I promise you, like, the minute that you step foot in nature with the intent of just having an open mind and spending that time right there in that second. Don't worry about your phone. Don't worry about anything else. That's time that's not wasted. That's time that you're never going to regret. And that's time that you're always going to remember.
Yeah. And what's so cool about that is the way that you're driving, driving traffic, the way that you're driving business is pointing people to your shop. And for those of you who don't know, Clint's day job is a tattoo artist. He kind of knows how to draw stuff at a semi-decent level. So his artwork, his t-shirts, they're all right. They're not bad. So along those lines, this is kind of a cool opportunity for you to meld your two worlds, right? As somebody who follows you on social media, I feel like you get the most excitement when you're doing pieces when it comes to tattooing that has to do with nature. Like, you get really hyped up if somebody wants a big ass trout on their leg, or if they want an elk. Like, that's the stuff that fires you up. That's where your passion lies. So this is such a cool opportunity for you to take both of your passion projects and the things that you care about and bring them together, and then to go out and share them with the world.
Yeah, it really is. Outdoors has always been a big part of my life. Ever since I was a wee little Cub Scout and Boy Scout, I've always been outside, and I've always loved it. And being able to bring those two things a little bit more together, to where I get to draw some fun stuff and throw it on t-shirts, and maybe with the intent of taking somebody on their first adventure like that they've never seen, and opening up their eyes to something like that is super. Like, it just sounds amazing to me. Like, to be able to share in somebody's first time catching their fish. Have you guys ever seen somebody catch their very first fish, whether it's a little kid or an adult?
Yep.
They go nuts, man. And they'll never forget that.
No, it's wild. I want to back it up though a little bit, right? Because what you're doing with Spark is awesome. And unfortunately, right now, there's only going to be one person that gets to go fishing and one person that gets to go on this bow trip, that you're talking, the archery trip that you're talking about. But let's bring it back to Clint before he was a hunter, and talk about how you got into it, and how we can maybe help guys kind of break down that barrier of the fear, like what Brad was talking about a little bit of, I don't know how to do this. I don't know anybody who knows how to do this. I know you talked about how you just kind of like, you say, fuck it, and you just jump in and do it. But what kind of got you moving in the right direction, and how did you get into the woods for the first time?
First off, I want to take a quick second and point out that it was Dan that dropped the first fuck it bomb, not Clint.
Yep.
Usually it's
usually the way it works on here.
Yeah. I I don't necessarily advise everybody do the things that I do to get into something. It's a lot, and it's very intimidating, and maybe not necessarily the correct way to go about these things. If I had my choice again, I would go on hunts with people and just like tag along, not have a tag in my pocket, but I would literally just go tag along with people to figure out how this was done. My first hunt was with my now ex-wife, and we were literally in the field watching videos on how to field dress a deer. So that's kind of not necessarily the best way to learn, but it is the best way to learn, right? Like, I do love the hands-on and like rewind button fairly often. But it was one of those things that we just wanted to experience that together for what we had. And I'll never regret that, but there's so much cool information on the internet right now. And there's so many opportunities of people coming out with classes. My friend Dan runs a class called Elk Shape, and he runs around the country teaching people how to be more effective elk hunters. And it's targeted towards elk on his end, but there are people who are teaching about mule deer. Brian Barney teaches about them specifically. There's people who teach about whitetail. There's so much stuff out there that you can get before you get to the field. And I consumed every bit of that before I made it out there. Like, everything that I could get my hands on. It didn't matter whether it was episodes of Meat Eater or whether it was something I found on YouTube or that sparked my interest. There was all these different things that I got a hold of everything that I could get a hold of. Books, didn't matter. Just did everything that I could to get into it. And then I went and did it. But I would advise for people, if they want to go and start something, they find somebody who already does it, which sometimes that's a little harder, right? Like, maybe you don't run around with somebody who fly fishes every day for a living. I happen to run around with somebody who fly fishes every day for a living. And so I get those opportunities. Maybe you don't know anybody in your first circle, but if it's something that you want to try, find somebody that knows something about it and does it, and tag along with them. Because I guarantee they're going to be excited about showing you. If somebody came to me, if Brad, since we live fairly close to each other, if he came in and said, "Hey man, I want to go and learn how to shoot my bow better, and I want to put in for tags this year, but I don't know how to do that," I'd be all over it. I'd sit down with him right now. Not right now, because we're recording a podcast, but later, after the podcast, I would sit down and go through that stuff with him. These people are willing to share these things. You just have to go out of your way and ask it.
Well, Brad, it sounds like you just ran out of excuses.
I did. And that's exactly what I just heard from that entire message right there. So, but that's really the thing, Clint, is, going back to what I said earlier, it's that barrier of entry can seem very daunting. This idea of hunting of, am I going to be any good at it? Am I going to really love it? The same could be said for any activity, but then you stare down the cost and the time involved. And then just this fact that I don't know who to talk to. And what all that boils down to me being is just an excuse. I look at that and, my excuses for not having gone hunting yet, not having really indulged in fly fishing. I live in Utah. I live in one of the most incredible, epic states to be doing that stuff in the country. It's an unbelievable place where all this stuff is right around us. When I've talked to you, you keep your fly fishing pole in the trunk of your car so you can just go wherever you want. It comes down to that. I'm a little scared. I've got a little bit of fear inside of me that I don't want to push past, so I'm just not going to ask the question. And that fear, while it can seem debilitating, it's really easy to overcome it. All you've got to do is open your mouth and ask. Because that's the thing that you said that's so incredible is just ask. People who have that knowledge, people who have that skill set, they want to share it. You see that in the hunting community. You see that in the fishing community. You see that in the outdoors community.
It's especially true in the outdoors community, in my experience anyways. I know that like I've gone through it, it's similar to kind of what Clint talked about is I just read a bunch of stuff and looked at videos and whatever and jumped out into the woods. And everyone I asked locally for help or opinions, whatever, as long as you're humble about it, they are so happy to help. Not going to give you their honey hole, but they're going to help you out. And, you were talking about how you live in Utah in this beautiful place with fly fishing and hunting. I got the same thing here on Long Island with like surf cast fishing. I don't know my ass from my elbow about surf cast fishing, but if I got over that little initial hurdle of not wanting to look, it's probably ego, right? We talked a little bit
Of
about ego
course.
last week.
100%.
Get over my ego and actually just said, hey, I want to learn this. I don't know anything about it. I'm an idiot. Treat me like a brand new person when it comes to it. I could find 10 people who would take me out and bring me surf fishing and teach me everything I need to know, because that community, in my experience, is full of people who want to pass it on.
Yeah. I actually take the opportunity to talk to people about stuff all the time because they're trapped in a room with me for anywhere from 2 to 4 hours. They can't go anywhere because I'm holding them down with a needle. But this is kind of what I want to spark too, right? I want the people who are in those things to talk about it more. If you sit down in a room with me and you're getting tattooed by me, or if you're just talking to me, doesn't really matter. If you sit down for more than 5 minutes, do you want to know what I talk about? Hunting's going to come up, jiu-jitsu's going to come up, fishing's going to come up, and probably some other stuff. But those 3 things are going to come up. And do you want to know how many times someone has said, man, I would love to go and do those things. I would love to go and shoot a bow like you do every week. And I've had people go and spend a little bit of money to get into it, but they've turned around. One of my really good friends, David, he came over one day and he's like, man, like I keep seeing these videos of you and your homies shooting every week, shooting your bows. Like, how do I do that? I've only picked up a bow like once in my life. And I'm like, oh yeah. Like, and you hear that and you don't necessarily think people are going to go and spend the money and put in a little bit of effort to do that. Well, the next week he shows up to my shop with a bow and he's like, let's go. We got league night tonight. And I'm like, oh, you've never shot and we're going to league night. Okay. All right, let's do this. And that was how it worked. But not everybody's like that. So I want the people that are involved in surf fishing, in fly fishing. I want these people to be so excitable about it that I say Brad and I have talked about fly fishing once or twice. I realize that Brad maybe wants to go and hey, Brad, this Friday I'm going fly fishing. Do you have a couple hours you want to come and hit the water with me? Now I invite him because that takes his intimidation out of it, right? Like he's no longer thinking like, oh man, like I can't ever ask Clint to go because then he's got to like wait on me and he's got to try and teach me. That's what we feel like, right? I still feel like that when I fly fish.
Absolutely.
So
I apologize I apologize to James all the time. But we feel these things that we feel like we're a weight there. But I promise you, if I'm out there and I see somebody catch their first fish or I help them understand how to make a better cast or whatever that is, I'm pumped about it. I don't care about catching a fish at that point. I don't care that you think that you're a burden to me. I'm just pumped that I get to help you do this first thing the first time.
Yeah, that's cool. And you look at somebody like, everybody looks at Steven Ranella and how much good he's done for the conservation movement and understanding the outdoors and for hunting. And there's a certain subsection of the hunting community that kind of hates it. They feel like, oh, we're just introducing more hunters. There's going to be more people out there. That's going to mean less for me. And what you're saying kind of runs along the lines of what Ranella is trying to do and what some of these other folks like Cam Haynes are trying to do, like to really spread the word and to just establish this understanding that this is something awesome. This is something that everybody should do. And the fact that you're willing to share that's a message that should resonate with anybody who enjoys these activities. That, we want this to grow. We want this to expand. Yeah.
And I thank you for dropping Steven Ranella and Cameron Haynes down to my level for a minute, but don't do that anymore. You're going to get me in trouble with those guys. But the way I look at it is, even if someone who comes into my shop and I talk about hunting with them, even if they never want to become a hunter, they understand hunting a little better. And next time they turn around and they're talking to someone who talks about hunting in a negative light, they're like, wait a minute, my buddy Clint doesn't talk about it that way. This is how he refers to it. And that's why he does the things that he does. So they're an advocate for me and what I do, right? Even if they're not a hunter. So I want to introduce everybody to everything. Because there's 2 sides to every bit of it. And when you see both of them, that expands your horizons all the way across the board. So yeah, I'm a firm believer. I would love for everybody to go out and acquire their own food in hunting. Is that going to be something that they do? No. And I would love for everybody to get into fly fishing. Is that something they're going to do? No. But also, I kind of hate seeing more people on the water, and I hate more people in the woods because so it's a double-edged sword there. But I understand that not everybody's going to go and do it, right? I do want to introduce people who do want to go and do it. And I do want to share the story of why we do what we do with the people who don't go and do it.
You bring up an important point there too. It's about introducing people to the sport, introducing people to the lifestyle. And that also helps to an effect, protect it. I'm sure you guys saw it where you were too, but during the whole pandemic stuff, we saw a huge surge in people getting their hunter's license over here in New York. And what that's turned into is it's actually opened up seasons in New York. It's opened up. We've got a turkey season on Long Island now for the first spring turkey season on Long Island now for the first time in I don't know how long, because people have been exposed to hunting a little bit more, and they're looking at it from a conservation standpoint and not just those crazy guys in the woods with bows and guns. So it's to your point, Clint, you're talking to these people. They may never go fly fishing. They may never go hunting, but you're exposing them to it and showing them the values of the lifestyle as opposed to just, these people who go out in the woods and kill animals because they get their jollies off on it. I think it's really important. And it's something that I'm trying to have those conversations as well. And at least have the conversations with people, explain, this is why I do it. This is why I enjoy it. And this is what I'm also trying to get out of it. And you don't have to do it. You don't have to participate in it, but I'd like you to at least consider why others enjoy it and others do it, and why it's important to the ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah. The easiest way to sit people down and talk to them like that is if you tattoo them. They can't go anywhere. So I advise you to become a tattoo artist.
Captive audience.
It's called kidnapping.
Yeah, yes. They have to listen to you if they want to finish tattoo. But like 99% of my clientele doesn't hunt and they don't fish. But they now are an advocate for hunting and fishing because of the conversations that we've had. And I love that about it. Because they now see, oh, wait a minute, like this isn't what I thought it was.
Yeah, I mean, you look at it this way. If you talk to 1,000 people about this, you might get a handful, a few dozen people who become dedicated hunters, fishers, archers, backpackers. But you're also introducing these concepts to individuals. You're exposing them and you're giving them a greater understanding. And a lot of times people just live in absolute ignorance. It's kind of wild to think, even somewhere here like Utah, how many people we work with, live around, go to the gym with, who never set foot outside. They sit inside all day. They don't really realize everything that this incredible world has to offer. And then by simply having that conversation with them, you're planting a seed. You're giving them a little bit of exposure, and with that exposure is going to come some level of respect.
Honestly, like what you just talked about is literally why I named my shop Spark and why I named the company Spark. That little bit, that spark can fire up a passion in someone. And it doesn't mean that they have to be a hunter. It doesn't mean that they have to be a fisherman, but it can spark something and change that life. And cities are claimed by the smallest spark, right?
This whole conversation comes back to the power of conversation. Now, you have a captive audience when you tattoo them, but the power of conversation in general is such a huge and powerful tool where you're actually sitting down and just talking to somebody about something that either they may have misconceived notions about or no knowledge about at all. And you're able to kind of have this back and forth versus, we live in a society where everyone's got their own damn opinions and it's very hard to change them. But what you're talking about here, that spark concept is so cool because it's literally just about talking to somebody and trying to have that discourse to understand each other. I mean, it's really what it comes down to.
That's what I'm passionate about right there is it may not be like changing the world into fishermen or changing the world into hunters or whatever. It's about having a real conversation with people as much as I possibly can.
Mm-hmm.
And what I was going to say is, Clint, you oftentimes don't give yourself enough credit. You're always like, yeah, I have a captive audience because I'm tattooing them. But you're a very compelling guy who's willing to share these things with everybody regardless. I've had really good conversations with you in parking lots next to your open trunk of your car.
Okay. Now you're making it weird for everybody
sketchy.
involved. Yeah,
it is getting a little weird, right?
You don't need to tell everybody about these things, man. Jeez.
I'm not going to say what was happening.
There was no money involved.
Transactions, okay?
There was no money involved.
No exchanging of money.
Was there money?
I don't know. There might have been something else. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't remember.
Memory's a little hazy.
Yeah.
But where I was going to go with this is one thing that you had alluded to earlier is the first time you went hunting, you were with your ex-wife, sitting out there with your phones, watching videos on how to dress a deer. All these guys out there who are saying, man, I could have started this when I was 20. I could have started this when I was 15. Here I am sitting 35, 40 years old. I still haven't done it. How old were you when that happened? How old were you in that experience with your ex-wife?
My first hunting experience, I was 35 years old.
35 years old.
35
That's
years
something
old.
to remember for everybody out there. How about 35? You were 15.
My first
you were
fly
20.
fishing trip was 34 years old. The first time I opened my own tattoo studio, I was 37 and a half years old. I'm doing a lot of weird shit after 35. I can promise you that. But I wish that I would have started these things when I was a kid. I didn't grow up with a hunting family. I grew up on a farm, so we didn't need to hunt. I didn't get the opportunity to start them then. And for whatever reason, I couldn't start them until I did. But I knew that I didn't want to wait till tomorrow to start anything else. I needed to start it now. Because I don't know how much time I've got. And I learned that more than most people did over the last year.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea how much time I've got. I damn well better make the time that I've got super fun and spend it with people that I love.
I mean, this comes back to Dan. Dan talks about his adult onset hunting that started when he was about 40.
Mm-hmm.
It's really easy for somebody to say, it's too late for me. That ship has sailed. I missed my chance. All that's bullshit. Like, you started all this at 35. Look at all the amazing stuff you've been able to accomplish in the however many years it's been since you've turned 35.
4.
It's awesome,
4
man.
years.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
4 years.
Like,
4.
I have clients who come into my shop. I have one guy who comes in. He's 67 and he's getting tattooed right now. He's almost got his first full sleeve. He started getting tattooed when he was 65. That was his first tattoo.
Awesome.
He was 65 years old. And I see that kind of stuff, and I'm always just like, I won't, the back of my head says, oh yeah, I've still got time to start that stuff, but I don't know if I have that time. None of us do.
The other thing too is if you start this stuff now, think about all the stuff you can still start later on, right? Yeah. You keep going. You're never going to stop starting new things and new adventures. So why just not start anything right now? Start things and you keep going.
Well, then let's introduce this thought too. Is I started 4 years ago. I did hunter safety as a 34-year-old man. Do you guys want to know something fun about me doing hunter safety as a 34-year-old man? I did it with my stepdaughter
You're the only person
and my
above
daughter.
14?
Yeah. Wow. My daughter was, I believe, 11 at the time, maybe 10. My stepdaughter was a year behind her, so 9 or 10. And I said, hey, I'm doing this and you guys are doing it with me because you need to get it done. My daughter had no desire to hunt. And I made her get her hunter safety card because I didn't want to look like a 34-year-old weirdo sitting in the class with a bunch of 14-year-olds. Because I didn't do it when I was a kid.
I got mine at 40 and I was by far the oldest guy in the class.
Exactly.
So I know I know the pain.
Luckily, I had those 2 girls to help me along with all those things. But I just don't think that there's ever a too late in this situation. Like if there's an 80-year-old dude and he wins my fly fishing trip and we hook him up on his first fish, I guarantee I'm going to make it out with that dude once a week from then on.
It comes back to that concept. You're just trying to create that spark. Like, I mean, this is absolutely full circle. That spark for some people hits when they're 15. For some people it hits when they're 80. There's a bunch of us where it hits at some point in between.
It seems to hit a lot of us around 30 to 40 years old, apparently, because we're all in here trying to start new stuff, right? I know Dan's going to be gunning real hard on this archery contest next time that pops up.
Yeah, I'm going to have a lot of t-shirts, new t-shirts in my
Hey,
in my
hoodies are
closet.
coming
My
in next
wife is
week,
not
man.
going to be happy about that.
Yeah. It'll be good when we get you out here to Utah.
I'd be lying if I wasn't Googling signing up for TAC up at Brighton while we were talking.
Yeah.
There's that spark. It just got planted.
Yeah. I actually am trying to figure out how to do it out here in PA.
Yeah, it's something we've been doing for the last 3 years, and man, it's such a fun trip to go up. They take you up on the ski lifts here in Utah. I don't know how they do it in other states, but they do it at ski resorts. So they take you up on these ski lifts and they drop you off at the top, and you have your course that you hike down on the way down on the bottom, and you've got different targets marked off at different yardages. And man, we have a ton of fun. Last year we did 3 days in Utah and then 1 day in Montana. And man, it's something I look forward to every summer now. That's like the highlight of my summer.
Yeah, it looks like a lot of fun. I like how you described it on Instagram as golf for adults.
Yeah, golf for men.
So speaking of that, is there I've been watching a lot of the Instagram clips and stuff. Is that a podcast you guys are doing, or is that just your way of kind of getting the information organized and put out?
Yeah, that's more so just us organizing that information and kind of showing people our idea, because it's hard to do because nobody wants to read a post, right? They want to hear it.
Right.
Everybody learns a little easier that way, and not that many people make it more than like a paragraph in reading something. So the easiest way for us to explain it was just to sit down and chat back and forth with some microphones running and record a little session for it. But everybody kept asking what podcast I was on for it. So now I actually can tell them a podcast I was on about it.
It definitely looked like one. So that's good.
Yeah.
So, well, I want to be pretty conscious of your time too. And it was a good conversation. We'd definitely have you back again. So why don't you tell the guys where they can find you and where they can find this project?
So you can find me. Easiest way to find me is on Instagram, and that's at I am Radness. It's a long story. Don't ask about it. But then my Spark account is linked on there. And the Spark account does have underscores on it, so it's a little tougher to find, but it's at _Spark_Adventures_. Instagram's getting filled up with a lot of stuff, so it's hard to find names anymore without adding a whole bunch of stuff in there. But on there's our website and everything. You can see all of our stuff. You can see what giveaways are currently running. We won't have our next ones posted until we pick a winner. We're picking a winner on this fly fishing trip in 9 days. So everybody that's entered in we'll enter them into a raffle, and we'll contact that winner in 10 days.
This podcast is going to go live on April 20th. And you guys are picking a winner on the 26th, right?
Correct.
So you guys got a little under a week to get your orders in and try and beat me out to Utah to go fly fishing.
You have to beat me, even though I'm already in Utah.
All right, man. Well, it was great having you on. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Brad, you got anything left?
Nah, man. It's always good seeing you, Clint. Thanks for joining us again. I'm really excited for this project, man. It's phenomenal.
Yeah, I can't wait to see where this goes.
Yeah, I can't wait to pick up some steam and see where we take off to, man.
All right. So for all the fellas, thanks you guys for listening. Make sure you're checking us out on Untaming Masculinity. You can find show notes. We'll have links to all of Clint's stuff, his Instagram account, the Spark Adventures account, as well as show notes for this and all of our other episodes. If you find any value, make sure you're giving us ratings and reviews on your podcast player. That helps us spread the word. And finally, make sure you come back next week. We're going to have more great content like this. So until then, we'll leave you with just one question. What are you doing to untame your masculinity?